we have to now get into what's going on with the Braves. What are they talking about? So let's welcome in our guests and dear colleague, former Philly native himself, Kevin McAlpin. Welcome, Braves reporter. Nice to have you on the show.
Yeah, so, obviously you want to get that home field advantage, right? You want to have some time off. Obviously, that's a big deal when you've played 162 games. But what the Braves have done the last two nights, and they'll do it again one more time tonight, is hold basically scrimmage action. They brought a number of guys up from AAA Gwinnett. They're basically splitting the team in two. We saw Max Fried pitch on Tuesday night. That was good. He's been dealing with that blister issue, and he got through everything okay. Bad news for Philly fans, good news for folks down here in Atlanta that their ace looks like he should be good to go for game number 2. But trying to stay as best you can in that normal everyday routine of, getting to the ballpark, getting your pregame work in, going out there and getting 3 or 4 at-bats. They're not playing 9 full innings, but they're doing the best they can to sort of simulate what it would be like a day at the ballpark. They've let fans come in for free. That's been kind of cool. They've been doing all the, the walk-up music and the announcements that would happen during a game. I think the one thing that a lot of teams last year learned was, it's good to have some time off. It's good to have some rest. But at the same time, you also don't want to take too much time off. And I think that's something that a lot of those teams with the first round buys learned a lot from last year and are taking into this year, how they get ready once again for, what basically was a 5-day layoff for the Braves.
Yeah, and Kevin, you talk about last year. What do you feel like has been the difference so far for the Braves last year compared to this year that you've noticed in the clubhouse?
Well, they're healthy, and that's the big thing. Last year going into the postseason, Max Fried had missed his last couple of starts. He was dealing with a sickness, lost some weight. Like, he just didn't look like the Max Fried that we're used to seeing every 5 days. Spencer Strider coming off an oblique injury, and he threw 2 really good innings in Philadelphia, and then things just completely fell apart for him in the third. He was not healthy. Ozzie Albies was out. But I think the one difference from this team is a lot of times you'll see a group where maybe the offense has a couple of down nights, but really with this team, they're so deep, they're so talented, they're so dangerous at any position, 1 through 9. I mean, you've got Ronald Acuna at the top of the lineup, 40-70, first player to ever do that in Major League history. Matt Olson did something Hank Aaron had never done in Braves franchise history. That's lead the majors in homers and RBI in a single season. You've got the reigning rookie of the year, Michael Harris II, hitting 9th for you, and he's hitting like 330 over the last 3 months. It's a deep team. It's a dangerous team. And when you're going to game plan for this group, again, a lot of times you'll see a lineup that might be very top heavy, where you say, we can get through the 5th spot. We like our chances with the bottom of the lineup. Not so much the case with this Braves team. They're just so much more dangerous. Behind the plate, Sean Murphy doing a really nice job limiting the running game. But again, fingers crossed, if you're listening to this in Braves country, they're going into the postseason a lot healthier than they were this time last year.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, they're an absolute juggernaut of a team. But luckily for the Phillies up here, the optimism is, since June 1st, they've been right there record-wise with them. Since August 1st, they even actually outpowered them. But the elephant in the room here is Citizens Bank Park. And the Braves got to watch that. You know what a frothy Philadelphia crowd can be like. It got to Spencer Strider last year. I know he was hurt, but there was a real impact. Have the Braves addressed playing in that environment? Do you think they're more prepared now for it after seeing it last year firsthand? Because I believe the manager even said, Snedeker, that was intense.
It was. And, I was actually an intern when I was at Temple with the Phillies when we opened Citizens Bank Park, covered them for a couple of years in 2010 and 2011. That was Roy Halladay's playoff no-hitter. I've seen some pretty big moments in that building, but I can't ever remember it being as loud as it was last year. We do all of our pre and post game shows from the studio here in Atlanta. So I was back, sitting with my producer, listening to our guys call the game. And I said, I don't ever remember hearing that building so loud. And look, it had been 10 long years between postseason appearances. I get it. Philly fans, I know the psyche of Philly fans. They were starved for a winner. And believe me, they made that a house of horrors for visiting teams last season. So that's why I think, again, it's important for the Braves to get that home field advantage, to get games 1 and 2 in your building. And Truist Park hasn't exactly been a walk in the park either for opponents. They've sold out 54 home games, did the Braves this season, 3.1 million in attendance. And it's a smaller building than in Philadelphia. It's a little over 41,000 with standing room as opposed to 45,000 for Citizens Bank Park. But the Braves did a really nice job on the road this year. Matter of fact, they had as many road wins as home wins this year. They went into Dodger Stadium about a month ago and took 3 out of 4 from LA. It had been like decades since they had won a series at Dodger Stadium, and they darn near swept the whole thing. They went into Sunday's finale with a chance to sweep. So they're battle tested. I think they're more prepared for it this year. Then again, there's no way you can really replicate what that feeling is like. You make an error, you give an extra team an out, maybe you don't make a play, maybe you run yourself out of an inning. It can come back to bite you in a place like Citizens Bank Park. But again, I think Brave fans would argue it's a pretty raucous atmosphere here in Atlanta as well.
So then I have to ask, with the simulation, I know you talk about they had the announcer, the walkout music. Was the crowd roaring in the simulation also? Was there some crowd noise? Because nothing can simulate Citizens Bank Park. But I'm wondering if they at least attempted to have something similar.
Yeah, I mean, they had the crowd there. It was probably a few thousand people, which is actually, it's pretty neat for those folks who got locked out of, division series and potential LCS tickets that couldn't get in, that said, hey, we can go down and watch them. The players were great with it as well. Tons of guys were signing autographs, really interactive with the fans in a way that you don't typically get, when you go to a regular season or a postseason game for that matter. So again, they did the best they could to replicate, what it would be like. But again, at the same time, when you're looking across at the other dugout and it's guys you shared a clubhouse with all summer, or, it's guys that you remember playing with and against during spring training, not necessarily the same type of atmosphere. But again, it was more about just trying to get the guys the reps and keep them on their routine where they don't just kind of sit back and take 4 or 5 days off. They'll hold the full squad workout tomorrow. But again, they did the best they could. But like you said, you're right. There's no way that you can actually – this isn't like an NFL practice or a UGA practice where they're cranking up the speakers out there to simulate what it'd be like on offense. There's no way you can replicate that atmosphere. It was great, and I made sure I gave Philly fans a lot of kudos on our post-game coverage all last year during the playoffs.
Yeah, Kev, I wonder if you feel the way I do. I think these are the two best teams in baseball right now. I think the World Series winner is coming out of this series. Yeah. And this is no excuse if they lose or if they win. It's a shame this isn't a 7-game series.
Yeah.
I really feel like it just kind of, I don't know if it's the reseeding issue in baseball. Should they consider that? I would just love to see this as a 7-game series because I think it's going to be an epic series.
Well, Jamie, you're reading the minds of Brave fans here that would love to see the reseeding as well. They're going, wait a minute, we got the top spot. We won 104 games. The Dodgers, meanwhile, finish as the number 2, and they get the 6th seed, while the Braves have to deal with the Phillies again. Yeah, it's almost sort of, I don't want to say it defeats the purpose, because, again, there's so much good things that come out of getting that top spot. The Braves do have home field advantage throughout the duration of the postseason if they are to get to the World Series. But you're right. That's been a topic of discussion down here the last few days. Hey, why don't they reseed?
Yeah.
Why don't they reconsider? We'd love to get a shot at the Arizona Diamondbacks over the Phillies. But again, it's going to be a fun series. I'm with you as well. 7 games would be so much more fun. It's going to be, a white knuckle ride for both fan bases. I was talking to Greg Murphy and Scott Fransky when the Phillies were here, about a week and a half ago. And I said, I got a feeling you guys are going to be coming back in a few weeks. And I said, believe me, there's not a lot of folks here in Atlanta that are overly excited about that potential. He said, well, there's some folks in Philly that feel the same. So it's been a great rivalry over the years. I'm glad it's a thing again now. And it should be a really exciting, albeit 5-game series starting on Saturday.
Yeah, we definitely wish it could be a 7-game series, but as you mentioned, just 5 starting Saturday, and it is the rivalry. It is the 2 of the best teams in baseball right now. But I know we appreciate you taking time, Kevin. Before you go, I want to ask your predictions. How do you see these games going out? Putting you on the spot a little bit here. Obviously, it's not going to be the final answer we have, but what are your predictions on your side for how this series is going to shake out?
All right. Before I give you my answer, can I just, full disclosure, I am sitting here with my Temple water bottle. Okay, I have not lost my roots there. And just so you can see over my shoulder here, right here, I got my Temple University Alumni Association banner flying. That being said, I'm going Braves in 5. I do think this thing goes the distance. If you are a Brave fan, I think that is encouraging for you because you have Max Fried and Spencer Strider for games 4 and 5. I think for Philly, a little bit at a disadvantage knowing you had to go through Wheeler and Nola just to get to this point. I'm not taking anything away, though, from Sanchez and what Suarez have done. Really good arms up there. I do think, though, I wouldn't be surprised if the home teams do hold serve throughout the whole way, and I do think it's Braves in 5. Brave fans don't want to hear that. Believe me, they want to get this thing over as quick as possible. But it's 2 really good teams. It's 2 high-powered offenses. It's 2 teams with some question marks in the pitching staff. I'm going to go Braves in 5. I do think they hold serve, but again, I have not completely abandoned my Delco roots and my love for both Haverford High and Temple University.
There you go. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going 5 as well. And last one, as we let you go, you've been kind enough to give us so much time today. The blister with Fried, it's something he's been dealing with. You said he got through it on Tuesday in the simulated game. Is it fully healed? Is this something that could reoccur? Has he been dealing with this throughout the year? Where does that stand?
This has been years that Max has been dealing with these things. And for the last couple of years, I think the Braves felt pretty good that they had gotten it under control. He did throw the other night 1 inning with a without the Band-Aid on his finger. We know we can't do that once we get to Saturday, but it does sound like Brian Snitker talked about it yesterday. He checked all the boxes. He got through that start well. I know he gave up a couple of homers, but again, this is like a spring training game. It's more about the up downs, right? It's more about getting some reps out there. So he did get through it good. He's feeling strong. Spencer Strider will probably go on Saturday. They have not announced that. Fried goes game 2, and then we'll see what they do for games 3. That will be a very interesting scenario when it comes to how the Braves handle the pitching spot for the 3rd game up in Philadelphia. But yes, it does sound like Max is good to go. They'll keep an eye on it. They'll monitor it. They were calling it a hot spot, so it hadn't really fully popped open, but it was getting really close. And again, he's dealt with these in the past, so just trying to limit it, give him a little extra time between starts. I think they feel like he should be good to go come game 2.
That's something Zach Wheeler used to deal with up in New York and kind of got over it, luckily, here in Philadelphia. But, Kevin, thank you so much. You do great work down there in Atlanta and contributing to MLB Network. I'm glad you haven't forgotten your Delco roots. And thanks so much for hopping on with us. Look, if this goes 5 games, maybe we'll bring you on again and talk about Game 5. So we appreciate it up here, and all the best to you the rest of the postseason, man.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for having me on.
See you, Kev.
Yeah, of course. Kevin McAlpin, guys, Braves reporter, joining us ahead of the start of the NLDS.